Hi, I'm Mike Hamilton. This is NewsJacker. First thing I want to talk about is the trend from ransomware to give way to cryptocurrency mining. Wow, as if there wasn't enough stuff happening already. At least organized crime is making a strategic decision, possibly because there's some ethics involved, but I doubt it, to change from ransomware, locking up organizations to extort money, to using cryptocurrency mining. This is an interesting trend. The reason this is happening is because organized crime is a business. They want low risk, high return, and the risk in potentially locking up a hospital is people dead. And if you cause dead people, the FBI will definitely come after you. So they're going to crypto mining. This is interesting because right now we just exceeded the point where it costs more in terms of power to mine a coin than the coin is worth. That's only true if you're paying for power. If I take over your browser and get your computer to act as my agent to mine crypto, and I can do that with a huge botnet, all of a sudden that becomes a good business model. So rather than disruption to operational continuity from locking up your environment, your computing power is just going to slow down a bit. Is that going to cause disruption? I guess we're going to have to see. Next thing I want to talk about are all these pipelines that just went down. So ostensibly, this was the cause of the EDI system that was in use being compromised and taking down a number of pipeline companies as they were using this EDI system to schedule transfers of pipeline materials throughout this network. So at least 5 companies went down. The interesting thing is this happened right after new sanctions were announced on Russia. Now, if there is any country in the world that stands to gain from both a spike in energy prices and a disruption to competitors' ability to deliver energy, it's Russia. So, the Brits are pretty sure they're coming for infrastructure. I think that this uptick is actually real, and we need to pay a lot of attention to this. So let's track this as it goes on. But I think Russian fingerprints are going to become more and more pronounced, and I think they're going to be less and less concerned about the rest of the world knowing that it was them. Next thing I want to talk about is the changing role of the Chief Information Security Officer. This is interesting. Historically, and I've been part of this ecosystem, the CISO is either a checkbox or a scapegoat. Historically, that's been the way it's gone. Now, the CISO has a seat at the table to talk about risk to an organization, just like we talk about earthquakes, asteroid strikes, zombie apocalypse, etc. I think that if we can embrace this and we can do it the right way, the nature of security begins to change. It's not so more keep the bad guys out of the network, it's manage this risk. 2 important things I would say. Number 1, be sure and talk about money. Right? It's the financial impact of undesired outcomes are the way that this conversation needs to occur. We don't want to talk about SQL injection and buffer overflow. Everybody's eyes are going to glaze over. But when you talk about dollar amounts of liability and the potential for claims of gross negligence against executives, all of a sudden we're having a completely different conversation. So this is probably the best way to handle this conversation. One other tip. When you're looking at that risk expression, it's all about likelihood of an event occurring and the impact of that event. The likelihood is affected by your preventive controls, firewalls, antivirus, URL filtering, email security. The impact is managed by effective detection and response. That's why we're in the business we're in. We understand this. If a little grease fire breaks out on the stove, that's okay if you put it out. It's not okay if the house becomes engulfed in flames. Lastly, we're going to change our name. Turns out that critical informatics is really hard to type. In addition to that, there's a little bit of confusion in the health sector where we work about clinical informatics. And so we want to work with the health sector, but we don't want to confuse them. So we're changing our name to CI Security. This is going to happen slowly. Over a period of time, you'll see logo changes, website changes. Tell me how you like the Kraken on the logo. We all think it's awesome. But over time, this is going to be a little change in look and feel. The company is the same. We're just making it easier to type. Thanks. I'm Mike Hamilton. This is NewsJacker.